meeting to order. And just go through the roll call. Susan Bryant? Not yet. Jeff Donzi?
Here.
Jeff, Lori Gibbons?
Here.
Derek Goodwin?
Present.
Lisa Hewitt Dick?
Here.
Michael Sardina? No. Martin St. John?
Here.
And Jake Wheelwright.
Present and accounted for.
Excellent. Thank you for being here. I'd like to welcome Jeff Donzi, our newest member. Representing Cohasset Sailing Club, Sean Keneally has passed the torch to Jeff. Jeff, I'm wondering, I didn't prep you on this. Could you give a 1 minute on who you are and why you're on your interest in Harbor Committee?
Well, I've long lived here in Cohasset, participated in many different ways around the harbor, from working at the boatyard to junior sailing programs on the harbor to living on the harbor now. So just very, very interested to assist and support and participate.
Great. Thank you for being here. Did everybody, all members, have a copy of the agenda? Laurie, I'm gonna, there's still some dates on here. Hi, Phil, welcome. Have a seat. On the agenda, next on the agenda is to review and approve the minutes. I do not have copies of those. I did send them out previously. Can I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
I'm to approving minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion based on reading the minutes. Discussion, changes, edits, otherwise. Hearing none, all in favor of accepting the minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the minutes are accepted. Thank you. The next on the agenda, and the reason I'm handing this out, you could take a look at your agenda. The Harbor Committee admin, I'm proposing some different dates for coming up meetings. I've been trying to stick a consistent meeting, but it's a challenge for me because I won't be in town a few meetings. And then the other thing we're trying to manage with that is that the planning board uses the same Zoom, so we can't meet when they meet. And a few other things. So I'm proposing that we meet Wednesday, May 7th, Wednesday, July 16th, Thursday, September 4th, Thursday, November 20th. And hoping that works for people. But sort of the question, because we sit on Wednesdays, is Thursdays a hard conflict with anybody, at least that far out? And while I don't know as we have to, I'm not making a motion on this, but we'll publish this as the schedule going forward for this year. Again, we'll hold elections in July, and if whoever the chair gets elected wants to change the meeting time, that would be their prerogative. So that is, we'll move forward with this schedule as listed. If you do subsequently have any issues or concerns, please send me an email. Thank you. The next part of this is we don't have on the agenda today, we've been discussing this quite a while, the flood resilience issues at Cohasset Cove and Black Horse Lane. And we're not having a big discussion about that, but we think we have sort of a next move on that is to hold a public forum and specifically trying to get interested parties who live on Black Horse Lane. Bill, I know you live there, and glad to have you and Bernadette involved, and to get folks from the Cove, to get Harbor Cohasset. What we have done, and I'll just give a brief report, we presented some options that Mike Sardina has really been championing at our last meeting in January. Subsequent to that, he met with Brian Joyce and had a chance to review those options with Brian. And Brian, let's just say he's not committing to anything, but he thought they were promising. So, of course, there's no money, there's no funding, there's no anything to do with this stuff. But I think the first order of business, because the town's really been pursuing climate resilience around the harbor and the village, is to at least see what we can do to try and drive some thinking and consensus around potential options. And then with that, you know, to the degree that there's opportunities and opportunistic paving projects and potential grants that we could go seek, we try and move on that. So I'm putting this out there that we will, looking at a time frame of approximately sometime in mid-April or the first week of May to publish a public forum, which we would probably have here or in the room next door. We'd walk through sort of the journey that we've been on as a town and as a community in terms of trying to identify both the risks we face from flooding and the possible options, and then really try and get all townspeople, but we particularly like to have Black Horse Lane and Cohasset Cove, Border Street, Elm Street, and others who would be directly impacted this to come and see what the options are. So I'll be coordinating that. It will be a public meeting. It'll be posted. I can't exactly remember how we have to have a quorum or not, but one way or another, it'll be a public meeting and posted and in fact, you know, advertised and promoted to the best of our ability to get people to come. So that's the plan. Any questions about that?
Yeah, Judge, do you envision like a Saturday afternoon or Saturday morning or, you know, a weeknight, or what are you thinking? I'm
I
thinking
guess
for optimum.
I'm envisioning if we can find the time, probably a weekday night, like
Yeah.
7 o'clock. A 7 to 8:30, this kind of time frame when people can attend via Zoom.
Yeah,
It would be via
that's true.
Zoom. It'd be much better to be in person, but we would accept.
Can cover it. Right?
Ideally, we could do this as a hybrid with support of Julia.
Mhm.
Little tricky to do that with sort of an open-ended discussion, but nonetheless, we can try.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people need to attend that way.
Is there actually a report that you're going to present?
Not so much a report. I think we have a couple of new items that we would want to present, and we'd probably post them to the Cohasset Harbor Committee webpage and then make them available that way. Most of the materials are already posted there, in particular, the study that Withold Group and others led and presented in June of last year. That's a primary report.
Would you be thinking of having the municipal group present to support questions, or does that cost?
We could ask, it would probably cost.
Yeah.
And I think we have enough information that we can move forward. The key thing is they identified the storm tide pathways and where our biggest risks lie. And then we've subsequently gone through and again, this is risks really to the core of Cohasset town infrastructure. It does not solve flooding across the board in Cohasset. You know, there's people on Stockbridge Street and other areas that are saying, what about me? And, you know, that's sometime in the future. It's really just looking at protecting the wastewater treatment plant, the public safety building, village, and all the homeowners in between there.
So is the goal really just to raise awareness?
Actually, it's to raise awareness and I would say that is a principal thing, because this is, again, it's really still hypothetical. Both the storm is the hypothetical as well as the solutions, because there's not money chasing it. But we're trying to get in front of that and actually influence it. And some of the solutions we're looking at, the ones that Mike Sardina has proposed, they look like they could be within the realm of funding by Cohasset, possibly with some grants. It's not like, I don't think tens of millions of dollars to do this work, and it could be very practical. Jake, did you have a question?
Derek took it. I was going to say the overall intent, just to kind of create interest and more widespread concern amongst the townspeople,
Yeah,
so to speak.
I'd say-
Support for the whole plan.
I mean, it would be ideal, along with the interest to get, to identify sort of a leaning toward certain solutions and to get potential public support so that we might raise awareness on this to the point where it becomes a town meeting or becomes part of a larger climate resilience plan. Are you looking for the Harbor Committee? Have a seat, join us.
Has the harbor committee reached out to, live in those neighborhoods that go Black Horse Lane directly? As of yet?
We have.
Okay.
I mean, we have to the degree, some people are here based on an email list.
Okay.
We send out an email. And we've held public forums, particularly with people on Border Street around Captain's Walk and other stuff. And had very good help from Debbie Shad and Bernadette Faulkner to try and raise awareness, right? Those are folks who live on Summer
Yep.
Street and Black Horse Lane. We'll be trying to leverage local knowledge like that more.
Here's one other question I have for you all. Since some of the town, including Black Horse Lane, is at the confluence of the rainwater from the whole hill
Yeah,
behind us,
stormwater runoff, yeah.
and also the rainwater all the way up to the high school comes down and goes into James Brook. Has there been a study of the water levels associated with the combination of rainwater? Because
Mhm.
so that's part of the study.
And, you know, just
I-
for town meeting, Phil, if you could just identify yourself and address.
Philip Faulkner, 17 Black Horse Lane.
Thank you. To that end, there've been studies and certainly the stormwater runoff has been part of the thinking and study. It's what makes it a really fun project. You have to stop water coming in and allow water to go out. There would definitely be more engineering. Even the conceptual solutions that were identified in the June 2024 study. They were acknowledged that those, if the town wants to move forward, pick a solution, and then they have to do even more studying and engineering in order to make those bid-worthy projects. And so that we're a step or two prior to that.
So they did, just to confirm, they did include in the modeling the watershed runoff from those higher elevations adjacent, not just the storm surge or
Yeah.
sea level rise surge or whatever.
I'd say to the degree the concepts are written there, they're very aware of them. Certainly the Woods Hole group is very aware of them. And we did we had a series of public forums on climate
2 or 3,
resilience in
right.
2021, where Jack Buckley did a great job of presenting, the potential stormwater runoff coming out of James Brook. The trick on all this, if you erect barriers to prevent the water from coming in from the sea, you have to have really good tide gate technology and possibly even pumping technology to get water out. The worst case scenario, Tom Bell presented this a few years ago, is a hurricane, which causes storm surge to come racing down Black Horse Lane and over the cove, and 3 to 5 inches of rain falling in the area, trying to get out. That's the sort of perfect storm, but frankly, not unlikely in the next number of years. So this will all be a great discussion at a public forum. And we'll be trying to schedule that. It looks like ideally in the next month or so. Thank you. And welcome to the meeting to folks who are here. Next, we have on the docket the Harbor Master Report, and Lori, you have the floor.
There's not much to say. It's the winter time, so it's quiet.
Quiet is good.
Yep.
No emergencies, no rescues, no big parties on in the harbor.
Nothing else to say?
I
Fire
wanted
season.
to, Lori and I talked a little earlier and just highlight, there was a Army Corps of Engineer boat in the harbor.
Mhm.
And could you maybe just briefly describe what?
They
They
were
were there
just
for?
doing a survey. It's a scheduled survey. They do it like every 4 or 5 years, just to see how it's filled in. What the water depth is in various areas, the channel and, the main part of all of the harbor. So,
And
that's a routine,
Yeah,
nothing special.
are you aware, I mean, is there any imminent challenges with the channel that you can see coming up for this coming boating summer?
Not unless we get a good nor'easter.
Really lucky this year.
Yeah.
We're really lucky this year.
The
The
hump,
nor'easter can change that overnight.
yes,
Okay,
the hump has redeveloped out there at Whitehead. And if we got a good nor'easter, we'd have a problem.
Okay. Are there other questions for Lori?
Sorry, go ahead.
So I mean.
Actually, and let me just ask, Martin, can you hear us okay? Just thumbs up if you can. Okay, good, thank you.
Oh, no, if you could just elaborate, so there's a hump developing, like Whitehead, and so there's a nor'easter, what's going to be new? I mean.
It'll get higher.
Oh, the water will come in at a higher.
No, the hump will get higher.
Oh,
So
the hump will get higher,
Yeah.
not the water. will come
No,
in
no,
higher.
no, the
Okay.
hump gets higher.
Thanks, I'm just trying to picture what you're saying. Thank you.
I was just gonna ask if there, since our last meeting, any updates on potentially getting a new harbor master building?
No, there's no updates.
You did describe what you, at least, we talked about that at the last meeting in the minutes, that we were fully supportive of that. I think you suggested, Lori, that the request for a new harbor master building might be lumped into a request at special town meeting at the end of the year.
Yes, possible.
So there'll be nothing about it in the town meeting coming up in
No.
May. And that where it might be combined with is some funding for the emergency service, the new police station.
Yeah.
And fire station out on 3A.
Mhm.
Okay. And that, again, sort of recapping, that might be subject to an override.
That's, I don't know. Could
But
be.
you've heard, it's possible. There's a lot of overrides.
Lot of rumors going on, right?
Lisa, yeah, I know you have family involved in capital budget, right?
No, no longer. He's
No more?
stepped down a while ago.
Okay.
He's now his Cohasset Historical Society
Okay.
24/7.
Just that, okay. Well, so no inside knowledge on.
No
on
inside knowledge, but what
overrides.
I will mention from my other line of work, working on the budget for state agencies, is that money is gonna be extremely tight in the next, because the Commonwealth of Massachusetts feels like they may lose up to $16 billion from reimbursements from the federal government. And when we have like a $40 billion budget, it's gonna be pretty tough to find that money for all these vital services on a lot of other places. So I would imagine that the municipal monies, and this is just conjecture, but it's on everybody's tongue in the State House and any meeting you go to, including meetings I've had with the Ways and Means Chairman, that they just don't know. So the cherry sheets, the local municipal monies that are gonna come through may be impacted like never before. So it's gonna be tough to know how to plan anything for a little bit of time.
Thank you for sharing. I suppose that shouldn't be a surprise.
Yeah. It's like the exact opposite of a year and a half ago when the opera money was like flying from the sky. There was more money than they know how to spend.
Yeah.
In most government entities.
Thank you. Thank you, Lori. We're going to move to the Cohasset Rec Fair. And I'd like, if everybody could just take a look at these. Actually, if you could pretend you're a participant,
Yeah.
take out your phone and see what happens when you click on one of these.
Right.
And I'm going to share screen while I'm at it. So. There. Let's see, am I sharing? Yeah. So this is anyway, talking about the rec fair, I'm proposing, we have reserved a table there. Thank you, Derek, for again reminding us that that's a good idea. I think our opportunity as Harbor Committee, and we have to really present ourselves, is to let people create awareness around what we're doing. And I sent an email to the group and, no deliberation via email, but these are the questions I'm sort of putting out there as a way to engage folks who walk by the table at Harbor Committee. So number one, well, let me see, I'll just bring it up. Sharing the wrong thing. I'm going to stop sharing that. And I'll be right back with. a moment. So folks can see this online. Okay, I'll share. Um, all right, well, it's a little small. Anyway, the proposal is that the fair, which is this Sunday from 1 to 4, to engage folks primarily with question number 1, which is my proposed wording, and I'm up for, this is real-time editing. How do coastal flood projections impact your home? I don't know if that's the right question or not, but we're trying to engage people in thinking about the real issues of climate resilience in Cohasset and specifically maybe where they live. Second was to highlight the Cohasset Harbor Recreation Survey that we ran last year, and this is a way of promoting that. Third, the how might flooding be mitigated at Cohasset Cove? These are just good things. This will take you directly to the presentation that was given in June by the Woods Hole Group of the various challenges at Cohasset Cove and on Summer Street. And then just a last one. Where can I learn more about Cohasset Harbor? This takes you to the Harbor Committee page. What my proposal is, and again, think of yourself as walking down the hallway at Deer Hill School and seeing the, the soccer club, the Boy Scouts, the rowing club, and we're trying to get their attention. And what I'm proposing to get attention with is primarily this. This is something we reviewed and looked at. Come on, thing. There it is. We proposed and looked at in previous meetings. And do this essentially real time on a big screen. And that's the table prop that we have.
Do we have access or AV for that type of setup?
Well, the AV would be this laptop, a 24-inch monitor, and that's the AV I'm talking about.
It's simple, yeah.
I was just a point. I saw some property for sale that somebody I know is selling property on Lothrop Lane, just off Atlantic Avenue. It's like, I wonder what this says.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then the property I looked at, in the worst 2050 storm would be under 10 feet of water. According to this. Yeah, yes.
Do you have a poster version of that?
Well, it's,
Because it would attract people if you.
well, I'm literally gonna present this.
Oh, no, I know, but you know what I mean, that like people, if you have a bulletin board, people.
Welcome, come on in.
Hi, everybody. Hi. Yeah. It's a-
We're trying just to we're gonna try and promote this, but this is gonna be the main, the main visual
Yeah.
that we're doing and really try and get folks to, to come up and say, what's your address? And we'll take a look at that.
So I'm walking down the aisle and I'm, picking up candy at any old place,
Oh,
soccer place and
candy,
this
thank you,
place and that
yes.
place. And I picked this up. I love this. I think this is great. But do you think if I picked this up and I was in a hurry and I had to go somewhere else, I would say, oh, I don't feel like taking a survey. But if it had something along the lines of some indication that there were answers behind these charts, I forget what it's called.
Yeah,
Something on this piece of paper that said something about, answers to some of these questions, or as opposed to
just open
asking
it.
my question, how do I think coastal flood projections impact my home? I would look at this as if it was a survey.
Okay, that's a good point. It looks like a survey.
Like I'm taking a survey by clicking on this. Just to have some other indication that not only that when I go on this, I will get some great information.
Scan for answers,
Yeah, there you go.
scan for
Yep.
the answer, something.
Yep.
Okay, something simple.
I like that,
Right,
and I think I may have packed it too full, with just trying to fill the page with QR codes. So like what's think following up, the most important one
see.
here that we're trying to engage
Yeah.
on is question number one. Maybe that's not the right question. What would be the question that might engage people?
Well, no, I don't think
I think-
the questions are fine.
Right.
It's just are people thinking that they're gonna scan to answer the question themselves versus scan for the answer
To
the
get the
question.
information, right?
Well, there is some overlap between 1 and 3.
There's, I mean, they're very,
There's a bit of redundancy there.
I would tell you, number one is the one I
Yeah.
really want to drive
sure.
people to go and see. If there was just one thing, it would be this. And
Maybe just
then,
have that one.
what's that?
Maybe just have that one. Or, I mean, I'd love to promote our recreation survey that we did too, but
Yeah,
if you were gonna have just one, then have that and have scans for answers or.
The nice thing is having this takeaway and having that there's people in an interface that they can say, okay, I can take this and I can go show other
Right,
people
right.
by scanning. So
so maybe simplify this.
Mhm.
I think it's just clarifying.
Yeah,
a little
well, I'm suggesting, I did this sort of,
That's great. I mean, this is.
at night a couple days ago, and I think, talking among it, there's too much going on, even on this.
It might even be good to have, once design is fleshed out, if we can print like a big foam core, put that on the table as well, we can scan it all in there as well.
Oh, so they have. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
or they can take the paper, like
So
you said, if they want to.
I had thought of that and want to do that, so
Mhm.
making this is something you stick in your back pocket.
Mhm.
So I think, won't spend the rest of the time, I'm gonna simplify this.
Mhm.
It's pretty simple, just, I think.
Yeah, but I think that there's too
I think
much,
you're right. I think you should trim it down.
I think
to
there's still too
questions
much.
1 and 4.
yeah.
One of the questions I have is your goal to get them interested in the study? Or to try to scare the living vegetas out of them? Anybody who has a house that's in the floodplain already has the living vegetas scared out of them. What about scaring them out for the sewage treatment plant and the public service, public works, public safety building being flooded out? Would that scare people into believing that we're gonna have a big expense later on? Or what are you trying to do?
I would say not scare, raise awareness, show that
Yeah.
there's a tool.
Okay.
And, ideally have people
Mhm.
get curious about the tool, because this is, even this, it's, yes, it's scary, it's also hypothetical. We don't know exactly when it's gonna happen or how it's gonna
Yeah, I
happen.
doubt many people know about a site like this to go to and
Yeah,
put
Exists,
their
right.
address in and see what it tells them.
While this is the core focus.
Yeah.
I think it's also to inform that the committee exists and that
Mhm.
you're here as an advisory council. to the town
I agree,
For
I
these
agree.
types of things going forward.
one of the buildings that you're not considering that a lot of people cherish in this town is the church that will be flooded out,
The,
St.
oh,
Anthony's.
St. Anthony's, yeah,
So that is sitting on
it's in low ground,
wetlands.
yeah, low ground.
I'm just trying to,
I thought you were gonna say the American Legion.
Each to their own.
Well, it's a
I'm
church,
trying to get
it's
it
a
so-
church of a different kind.
I'm trying to get it so people can relate to it. Anybody in the village who had their house in harm's way is interested in it. The people who actually kind of say, it's not gonna bother me, but will.
Well, you could change instead of how to coastal flood impact the community. So it's more widespread outreach, not the folks that are directly in that floodplain necessarily. It affects the critical infrastructure, you mentioned church, for instance, but just make it more to a wider spread
Yeah,
audience.
so maybe, I'm hearing this a little bit more commentary, just a couple of these QR codes, to get people intrigued.
Yeah.
And a little bit more commentary, and maybe simply state why the climate resilience mission of the Cohasset Harbor Committee is, we think is so
So important.
significant.
Given the present environment we all live in, climate resiliency in certain parts of town may raise some here. Flooding is something we all can understand, and it's not politically sensitive.
Yeah.
I guess that's,
So you think flood in capital letters?
yeah,
All right. Well, I do have flood, that's part of it. Let me take this information and
Yeah.
work and run with it. This is great feedback.
Mhm.
The second part is, I plan to be there for the body of it. Is there anyone else who's interested in sitting at the
I can
Cohasset?
help. I do
Harvard
CMI and, you know, right.
Is this Sunday?
It'll be this Sunday, 1 to 4. I'm good for 1 to 3, and then I have something coming
I
up.
can make that.
Could you?
I could, yeah,
Great.
I will. Okay.
Thank you. I don't know where we're gonna be, but
Yeah.
you know, other than the Deer Hill School, we will be there.
I haven't been there in years, so it'd be nice.
Everything's a little.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Lisa, and others, welcome to step by and make it look like we have a crowd of interested people.
Should be able to stop by from 3 to 4. I think maybe I've got prior obligation.
Awesome.
What kind of candy serving?
I'm telling you,
You-
it's
you-
strict.
You've been good about
I
that.
have.
I think about things like this and you think about what really
Well, it's why
matters.
it's what makes people stop.
Yeah.
Freshly baked cookies don't work.
Don't know,
Either
candy.
that or if we had can openers, you know, those plastic things that open cans.
No,
That's
I
about
think
it.
candy.
That's what the sheriff gives out.
All right. Candy will be on the
Sure.
agenda.
Why don't we
Funny
pick
you
up,
mentioned
you know,
koozies.
take that off your plate.
Obviously, not to usually have any budget for any stuff like that. You know,
Swag.
both keychain floats or food things.
We don't have budget,
No,
but
we don't have
it
budget.
doesn't,
But
Yeah.
doesn't mean we couldn't do it if we really dedicated
Yeah.
to it. we-
so no, we don't have budget. If we have an idea, though, we could certainly explore getting it done.
I'm just thinking like next year in the vein of raising awareness of the committee and what the committee's up to.
So creating something, yeah,
Mhm.
that you might,
Takeaways for future stuff.
yeah, like a koozie with a QR code.
Yeah, there you go.
I like it.
Like the safe harbor sweatshirts and foods.
Good. Thank you for that input. I think that covers at least what I wanted to cover about the rec fair. And we're right now right on time. And next on the agenda, we have Barbara Russell has just joined us. And the agenda item, which I stole from Cohasset Stroll, is making the case for climate action plan, a discussion with Alternative Energy Committee, Barbara Russell.
Thank you for changing the banner to the correct.
And I'm wondering, Bill, would you mind switching seats
No,
with Barbara and let her have the end of the table so she can be seen?
Sorry.
No,
Hi, Julia.
Good, how are you?
I never seen you in mine.
I know, yeah.
so just a little bit more introduction. I saw the Cohasset Stroll article. I sent that around to members of the committee. Our committee has been quite interested in climate action. We held a series of 3-4 public forums on climate resilience. Lisa and I were co-chairing that in 2021. And at the time, Chris Senior had said maybe there was going to be a climate summit in Cohasset. Well, it never happened, but we got a lot of mileage out of what we did. And we've been pursuing particularly climate resilience in the village. And James Brook and the planning department's been doing a great job of getting grants. And then the Woods Hole group continue to zero in on that. So we're interested in a committee and saw your article, interested in having you tell what it is in your vision for climate action plan. You have the
Thanks for
floor.
having me. You guys have such a collegial group. You're not used to this.
I won't last.
Very nice. So, yeah, Barbara Russell. I've only been here for 3 years. My husband and I moved up from Lexington. We also have a house in Cape. And we were very involved in creating a cap for Cape Cod Climate Change Lab. And they had.
Can you hear us okay, Martin? Can you
Oh,
give
I'm
me a
sorry.
thumbs up? Okay, he can hear
Talking
you.
all day.
That's good.
I teach 5 hours of courses today. So it's-
We're good. Thank you.
Yeah, so when I came here, we have friends and family here, and we're familiar with Coastline. And I immediately started asking questions about what kind of climate action plan we had. And I was so much started, we didn't. Such a beautiful and educated town. So I just joined the AEC. I know Deb Cook, and I was somewhat surprised to.
Can you move the microphone closer to her, please?
Yeah, you may have to.
Actually-
Sorry,
Voice
I'll
a
just
little
pipe
bit
up.
more.
Well,
Pipe up.
Yeah.
Why don't you
Yeah,
take
yeah.
my seat?
No,
No, actually,
Just,
come over.
just go closer to the microphone and,
All right.
because then it
No.
it won't cut out. Thank you.
Stop sharing.
Closer to if
I
it-
was
okay,
also
yeah.
stop
Can
sharing.
you guys move over something?
I'm happy to move down.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Here, try that.
All right.
Susan, tell us if you can hear okay. Go ahead, Barbara.
Hi. Yeah, can you hear me now?
Actually, if it's a recording.
Yeah, thank you. That's much better. Appreciate it.
So I joined the AEC about a year and a half ago and started digging around as to what we've done and really just trying to understand the landscape, right? How does it work? The doer, the grants. Tanya tutored me and I've learned a bunch. And I was surprised to see how much work you've done in terms of resilience and the study that you did in 2021 and 2022. So I started digging around and it never made a lot of sense to me to have two disparate groups, right? One working their tails off on resilience mitigation, and then us working on reducing GHG, right? So, backing up a little bit. So my goal is to try to get a climate action plan ASAP because I believe it's an existential crisis, and my hair is on fire. So, and I do see that there are prevailing headwinds in town that, and there's a process. So I'm trying to educate myself about the process as we are as is the AEC. People like Dan Cook have been on it, been on town boards forever. And in so doing, I have been writing a couple articles so far on Stroll. I've gone and spoken to parents and to others about what do you think? What do you think your kids think about global warming and the sense of urgency? We did a survey, QR codes ourselves, plastered in all the buildings in town. And lo and behold, there was a groundswell of support for doing it. And so we have that published on the town website, right, Julia? We published our findings from the survey.
Yes.
And quite pleased about that. So I don't want to go on, but where we are now is that we have the go-ahead to go from a green community. You know, the Green Communities Act is part of DOER, and we want to become a climate leader. And there's a large distinction there. We're eligible for a lot more grants. The grants, in my opinion, are a catalyst for us to create a cap because there can't be pushback because of the cost of creating a climate action plan. So that's where we're going. There are 5 or 6 steps. I brought them for you in case you want me to recite them. Julie knows more about this than I do. And one of them is to create a municipal plan. And so we just created kind of a scope of work and some deliverables, and I'm trying to engage members of our committee to go forward with municipal climate action. And that's one of maybe 5 steps. I don't remember what they all are at this point. And it seemed to me, I don't know what rules and regulations that you're supposed to talk to the harbor committee if you're not, but it seems insane to me not to talk to the harbor committee because we're all rowing in the same direction. So we're about to begin the process of creating a cap for the municipal side, which is, you know, it's like 40% of GHG, which is what we have to measure our success by. in terms of reduction.
GHG, could you?
Greenhouse gases. So, right, so the AEC's charge is to reduce, you know, if we do a climate action plan, it's to reduce the cause, you know, prevent more GHG. And we need a partner that could help with the other side of the equation, which is mitigation and resilience. So that's what I think. Why you're so valuable, why I brought you up.
Thank you. I mean, I also participated. So climate plan can be very broad. As I think, you know, I looked, you identified that Marshfield, Situate, and Hingham also have some version of a climate action plan. And I took a look at those. One of them, I guess, Woods Hole Group helped lead the charge.
You know, you
I think-
use this one.
That was that Situate, I think. And then others looked like they were actually done in-house by the planning groups in the towns. But I know that I participated, well, we had a municipal MVP, municipal vulnerability preparedness back in 2018. That helped kick off a number of things that we've done that helped, that actually helped with the municipal harbor plan. I recently participated, but no longer am, in an MVP 2.0, which was, looking at sort of justice, social and economic justice related issues around climate action, such as, increasing heat. Recently, heat has been, an issue that people are just starting to recognize between its effect on people's breathing as well as fire danger. So I'm just wondering, that was one thought I had, is how broad do we go? And also what other committees? I mean, we're interested as a committee with what our priorities are. I was wondering if open space and recreation is another possible interested party. What are the other interested committees in town that you're aware of or not, that might want to participate with this?
I'm good, mostly.
Well, one might be the Board of Health, because you bring up a good point. There's like 5 or 6 different themes, including flooding, been mostly concerned with, but talk about extreme heat. I mean, this wildfire seems really a distant thing for Cohasset, but they're not, they're happening up in the North Shore recently.
Blue Hills.
There's it's drought.
Yeah.
So there's a good site that maybe you could look into, that I had actually was very involved in for NOAA's climate mitigation, resilience and adaptation. It's called CAMRA. It's a website that actually looks at all these issues, and then you can plug in your communities, code, whatever, to get information about your vulnerabilities as community to those different themes, those different thematic issues. And so you look at your vulnerabilities more in a holistic way, not just one or the other. And then it sort of outlines mitigation steps and adaptation. So you identify vulnerabilities, start doing some analysis about what those vulnerabilities are, and look at what the mitigation steps are. So it's yes, it's a public website, and it's still up for as I've seen recently.
Haven't
Yeah,
checked the
no,
last half hour,
I think
right?
it's gonna get.
So you're.
Well, and I'll just raise one other thing, that MVP, again, participating, was looking at, climate change and as it affects the economics of fishing, as an
Mhm.
example,
Sure.
as
Mhm.
fishing stock moves out, or as the
Yeah.
um, lobsters move north, or whatever the case may be, it actually affects the economics of Cohasset.
There's actually another site that known as Fishery Service.
Okay.
I forget what it's called, but it's using GIS again to, you can put any species in your location, and it sort of shows the movement of those species over time.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of information out there. This is a point, and it'd be nice to have some groups or inertia to look at these things, or you can't do everything on.
You're suggesting how to get this cap written? How to
It would
create it?
contribute to that, yeah,
So
to having that
most,
information. Yeah.
so of the 75 coastal towns, most of them created cap in the process of it. Most have used an outside consultant.
Mhm.
And we have already explored, I keep looking at my buddy here, who knows more than I do about everything. We can, because if we become a climate leader and we do the MVP, rather the cap for the uni, we can get funding. We can also get funding from National Grid. That's going to contribute to our writing climate action thing. So I agree with you to bring in stakeholders wherever we can find them. The only challenge to that is there's a lot of, you have a huge committee,
Yeah.
everybody needs to know what happens. And so the beauty of having a seasoned outside consultant that's done one plan after another and understands coastal challenges really increases the skills and paves the way. I think that's how we would do it. We've Tanya is incredibly skillful at bringing in grants. She's gotten 2.1 million so far. Grants, and she's quite good at it. So my goal is to have us comply with Massachusetts reduction of greenhouse gases by 50% 2030. and 100% by 2050. They can start. That's where my head. Part. But it's great to have you here. Took me a long time to find you. It's really something to see what you're doing.
Well, it's I also realize what a growing and good mouthpiece the Cohasset Stroll is.
Yeah, it's
You
amazing.
know, it reaches a lot of households in Cohasset. So kudos to you for getting a nice rich article into there.
Well, we have a couple, we have two in the Earth Day issue, which is coming up in 2 weeks.
In the which issue?
It's Earth Day, the Earth.
Oh, okay.
Earth Day,
Earth Day issue.
Earth Day celebration, yeah. And I also gave it to the anchor. So we're doing two. It's mostly about climate leaders and why we are on a path to create climate action. And that what our charge is. I thought it would be really useful to write an article as to what's the alternative energy committee. We're egotistical. Everybody knows what we thought we would lay out in a couple of paragraphs, what it is and what the charge is. Because I heard some of your discussion about how we really have to look at the political environment here to get things done. Which is typical, right? But there are pathways now that we can accelerate it because of our charge. And you have a specific charge. I read it before. So,
To that CMRA site, it also has sort of guidelines of how to use that data and information to pursue grants. So I think that's actually sort of the end game,
is that right?
is it's used to
It's called
help with
CMRA,
yeah, if you didn't know a CMRA, it lead you to that. site.
Coastal Management Center.
No, it's climate mitigation, resilience, adaptation. So it's, but it has, yeah, again, sort of the end game for it is to pursue grants. Now, those grants were really tied to, well,
Cape Cod is great job of getting things. And they got everybody board because there's so many companies.
So what do you see as next steps? You wrote the article, we invited you in, you have a little bit of momentum in your own committee,
Yeah.
right? Or more than a little bit, maybe. Is it a principal high priority for alternative energy, the priority? How does it? I didn't see
believe it
that.
is now. I mean, you can read the minutes of our meetings.
Mhm.
I believe that we have really created a great deal of momentum based on our potential eligibility to be a climate leader. So we transitioned from green communities. We've gotten all the grants we can as a green community player town. And now we're going to the next level, which is climate leaders. There aren't a lot in Massachusetts. The climate leaders opens up a whole new array of grants. And they work with you to get a cap down, but we're doing cap first. The iteration is municipal cap here. And we've already been working with National Grid. Those more meetings than I had to have them work with us to have clean and green solutions. So the fire department, at the police department, and the schools.
That's what you mean by municipals, really focusing on the municipal infrastructure
Yeah.
initially.
Right.
And then expanding beyond that to other aspects of the town would be a follow-on step.
Well, the municipal plan is part of this 4, 5, 6 steps.
I was gonna ask about the 5 steps. I know you
I have-
alluded to
I have
5
it
steps
here,
that
yeah.
one has to undertake, and
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, because I know when we were putting together harbor plan, in order to trigger other things, we had to have a municipal harbor plan. And so, we got consultants, we got people in, we, did all these sort of things. I'm wondering, what are the steps that trigger this designation, that it then opens the
Well,
door?
I was also intrigued in your
Right.
article, the municipal harbor plan, which is is still is essentially the guiding light
Blueprint.
and blueprint for what
Right.
this committee does. But that opened up grant possibilities to us from the Seaport Economic
Right.
Council and from the
That was
Coastal
like a
Zone
threshold
Management.
condition.
So
right?
those have been
Right.
sort of the grant making
Mhm.
sources focused in on Cohasset Harbor.
Right.
And the ones you mentioned were different, so-
Yeah.
which was great.
I bet there's a lot more than we even know. This one has a bunch. I mean, so we have maintained our green community status. We've been a member of green communities for several years. advisory committee. We have a local body that advises municipality on clean energy and climate initiatives, which we already have. Net zero by 2050. We have to commit to achieve decarbonization at the municipal level as part of this creating a climate action plan. Electric vehicles, we have to adopt an EV zero emission vehicle first policy for the town. So we're already working on, I assembled a report on how many towns, municipalities in the Commonwealth have had their police departments and other municipal departments adapt EVs and how much they saved or how much more it costs. It's really great because it saved them a lot of money. Turns out they had range anxiety. They thought that if they were to go on a police chase, they wouldn't have enough range. But now they're getting EV, they're getting
It's a long chance.
Teslas and
Yeah.
so in any case, so that's one. And then the building code, the specialized special stretch code, which we already are in the process of doing. Which right, increasingly we're adapting our most of it to that. But so I'm really interested in how we can. I believe I'm using we. Sometimes I'm speaking for myself, but I don't speak.
Yeah, we'll take it as your committee,
And then.
and I'll take it as our committee
But I
too.
mean, so, I started looking at climate action plans around the state. And some of them are just focused on GHG, like we're only looking at greenhouse gases and trying to comply with the law. By the way, in Massachusetts is that we have to go 50% lower than 1990 levels by 2030 and 100%. It's a law. I mean, so that's one thing that kind of blows my hair back. But so some of these plans are on GHG and then some of them are blended, which makes sense, right? You have mitigation intelligence in it, and then you have greenhouse gas reduction. Right? So in other words, so we talk about getting people to use heat pumps, getting people to use EVs, using the commuter rail.
Solar.
Footprint of these houses, we have large houses here. And the footprints are jaw-dropping. As a matter of fact, from 23 to 24, we increased our greenhouse gases, even though we think that people are caring. People buy bigger and bigger houses. We live in a smaller house off of Jerusalem. We do. We're the only ones that are a smallish house. But the renovations are incredible. The footprint of the houses. So, I'm always thinking, how do we get people to pay attention? So that's where my focus is
Okay.
reducing that. And I also am very concerned about, I'm a sailor, right? I hate seeing what I see, but I'm seeing all of the damage and erosion.
Yeah. So our focus, has been, I'll say, deliberately narrow. I mean, in terms of mitigation, we are Harbor Committee. Our charge is the harbor and areas surrounding it, but it's really around climate resilience as it addresses that. I think there's other resilience aspects in Cohasset that people have a big interest in. We're just keeping our focus narrow here. But I think we see an opportunity for a bigger plan, greater plan. Also potentially enables us to take action, either bigger action or action sooner. Between grants and the awareness. A lot of this is really about, taking a critical mass of awareness in town such that there starts to become focus that this is a real and present issue and that there's something that people in the town can do something about it.
Yeah, at Barnstable High School, just when Cape Cod Climate Change Collaborative got the go-ahead, I think there were 2,500 people.
Wow.
Which was really impressive. They did a call to arms. They got people involved, articles in the paper, and people showed up, and it was, and they had Bill McKinnon, he speaks all the time about climate change. He's kind of like Greta Thunberg. But he was there. They had a bunch of us had gone to Denmark in 2021 to see how they went green so quickly. Two of the people that wrote the climate action plan on a change, were on our trip. And they showed us how Denmark went green so fast. And everybody should go and see. They were like us. They had 10, we will push back because people had NIMBY views about having big wind turbines in front of their houses, and they flipped. And it's a green country.
Terrific.
They are net exporters of electricity from green sources. And I got encouraged that maybe we could do something.
So let me pause. Are there other questions for Barbara? Lots of questions.
It appears that some of the things that you're listing are the 5 steps, if that's the proper we have, are already underway. I mean, are many of them underway?
Yeah. Julia?
Yeah, so there's
Yeah.
6 requirements. 2 of them we already are compliant with, so we are a green community in good standing, and we have an established local committee that advises the town, which is the ABC in this case. And then there's 4 outstanding requirements that involve municipal approval and or town meeting.
And who does this, I mean, once we check all the boxes, who gives us this certification? Is it the
It's
state or is it?
yeah,
Department of
it's
Energy?
Department of Energy Resources. Yes. I'm
At
at
the
leader
state.
program.
At the state level or
Yes.
federal level?
State, yes.
You had a question,
Oh, no, I was concerned about the same question, which is,
and I'm sorry.
my name is Mary Jo Larson.
Yeah.
I was concerned about that, funding question, whether it's going to be like NOAA, for example. Thank you so much for this reference to the webpage. I mean, they're working on wind turbines in Stellwagen Bank, or just outside, but certainly the cables will be going through there. So NOAA is a great site to check for clean energy that may influence this region, but all of us are holding our collective breaths, wondering what's going to happen to these projects.
Yeah.
So I was wondering about the funding as well. Whether it's I love the work that you're doing. Thank you for that. The climate action plan and efforts to look for grants, but I don't know enough about the sources of state funding for these, whether some of it is really coming from, whether it's NOAA, Department of Energy, other sources that are really federal monies. So that's what we're all concerned about.
I guess just in the maybe another 2 minutes or so. This has been really helpful. I mean, my thought is that the concept is completely in alignment with what our priorities are. And if we can contribute, we would like to collaborate as part of this. Greenhouse gas has not been an initiative of ours, but I think my expectation was there's sort of a broad umbrella under a corporate action plan for things that affect a coastal community like this, and that
And reaching a goal will be great. He's having something concrete,
yeah.
Yeah, the other thing is, I think you should think about a field trip to Cape Cod to meet with the 2 people that created it. They did an enormous amount of work in mitigation and lifting structures and having water go under.
Okay.
Denmark proud. All of the water goes underneath the sidewalks, right? They made all of these tunnels, and it's something to see, but they are doing it. They're doing it.
Okay.
And they're inspirational. And we can all learn a lot. I still want to keep coming back there, but I'm sure they would be welcoming.
Great.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for
Thank you.
joining us.
Fine.
Yeah.
Barbara?
Yeah.
This is Susan Bryant. I'm offline in a car right now, but I'm at the Center for Student Coastal Research. I'm not sure if Jack Buckley is in the room. And if
not.
so, he can speak to this better. Okay, so I want to make sure that you and everyone else that's on the meeting tonight are invited to our State of the Harbor. It's something that CSCR has been doing for years. And it's our chance to have everyone who cares about things are presenting their research on that night. And it's a great time to network with each other. I'm also really proud to say that it was CSCR that provided some of the professional development training to that Barnstable High School group.
You're cutting in and out a little bit, Susan, but when is, could you remind us what's the date? Maybe Jeff, you know it? CS, for the State of the Harbor?
The State of the Harbor is March 27th, and the agenda begins at 7 o'clock at Wilcott Commons.
Yeah. So it'll be a week from tomorrow here.
I
Yeah.
have it, Jack. I never heard of that place. He is a knowledgeable guy
Yeah.
and an enthusiastic guy.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Susan.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right,
All right.
thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome to stay.
No, I'm.
All right.
Good work.
Very nice
Thanks a lot
meeting you.
for
Thank
having
you.
me.
We'll move to the next agenda item. And it's oyster farming update, and thank you, Greg and Jamie, for joining us again. So great presentation at our last meeting in January, very informative. Don't need you to repeat all that.
There's a lot of information. Squeeze in.
My objective today was really based on the information I saw that came out of the select board meeting in Situate. Just, I think it was like the week after you met with us.
It was, yeah, it was the last week in January.
And, it talked about, a very positive view from the Shellfish Constable of the oyster farming from Situate's point of view. But in particular, it talked a little bit more about possible expansion plans. You mentioned that when you met with us, but I was curious about how that is developed or your perspective on expansion. You're currently, each farmer, there's 3 farmers, each has an acre apiece. You had mentioned that an extra acre would be the right amount for you. One of the farmers potentially needs more. I'm wondering how that is proceeding from your perspective, and whether if you know of any other farmers, so if there might be a 4th or a 5th farmer. I don't know if you have a perspective on that.
So there has been no movement at all since that select board meeting the last week in January. So Mike.
Can I ask a quick question? Is that
Sure.
a licensor approval meeting or what was the?
No, it was
issue before the select
technically, I
board?
think it was like
Just a
an
reporting?
update, yeah,
Okay.
checking in. It was the first time, I think, in the 2 years that we've been licensed that Shellfish Constable Mike DeMayo sat before the select board and kind of gave an update as to where we are, what's been going on. And in the absence of anything negatively reported to the town, that overall things seem to be going smoothly, except for some of the few snags that we talked about during our presentation, with some of the storms early on that took us by surprise or whatever. But there hasn't been any movement regarding expansion. The discussion, I think we kind of discussed it at the select board meeting. But that no one has met since. I think that Mike DeMayo is actually has to get some information from us, like proof of our insurance, and a few more things before he can even tackle the first in the order of operations, the first step, which would be just simply to renew our existing license.
Yeah.
Which is the most important thing to us beyond expansion. It's really the most immediate need for
And
us.
those are 2-year licenses?
Yeah, they were, yeah. Typically, towns give out licenses for aquaculture for between 5 and 10 years. That seems to be the norm. And I
Well,
think
that's,
that
you have a farm in another.
in
part of
Dennis,
town.
yeah,
You
my
mentioned that.
parents, my mother and father each have 1 acre in their names, and they're 5-year licenses.
Okay,
And unless you've done something wrong, or especially since it's part of a group of 27 acres, so it's not like there's just a couple of few individual farmers. Unless you've done something wrong on your license, there's really no reason why the select board ever doesn't renew.
this is in Dennis.
This is in Dennis, yeah.
Okay,
And so I'm expecting it to be similar situation in Situate, in the absence of any major issues. They'll simply review them and then extend them. I'm not sure how long for, I'm guessing 5. When we first set up the rules and regulations, taking from other towns and what they do, the idea was that we would make the first license 2 years because it's like, even though the state doesn't like to use the term pilot program, because once they license you, you're licensed. Like, it's not, something that the state takes away. But internally, the Situate's calling it a pilot program to kind of see how it works. And if it's not working, then get rid of it or whatever. They would make the first license just 2 years, evaluate it, and then if nothing major is wrong, then they'll happily hopefully extend this. So that's that's our first concern. We're not really at a point where space wise we need to expand yet, but
Yeah, we
it'll
haven't
be
utilized
soon.
our whole acre yet.
Yeah, we still have about 40% of our acre still available, but it gets deeper. It's
I
not
mean,
as
I read in
usable.
the article, and you were there, you said it, but
Yeah.
2 acres would provide, that's a good amount of space to run a business.
It is,
From your
yeah,
perspective.
from my perspective. Now, I can't necessarily speak for Larry Trowbridge, but if I could kind of paraphrase, I think where he's coming from, because you mentioned that there was another farmer that might want more, is that, while we're tackling our farm from what I know, which is more of a land-based, farm in my Cape Farm in Dennis is in the intertidal space between the high tide mark and the low tide mark, which allows us 4 to 5 hours a day to visibly see our farm. Our farms in Situate are in the subtidal region, so there's almost always some measure of water on the farm. It's a little bit more difficult to see what you're doing. You need a little bit more space typically. We're still approaching our farm from, using fixed gear that doesn't go anywhere, whereas Larry is approaching from his background, which is lobstering. So he has his cages attached to like trawl lines. So he has like anchors at each end of like a 300-foot long line, and then cages all attached to that. And
Does
he
then
needs more
pull them
room
up
to
onto
move
a boat
around. He does. He
to-
pulls them up on
And
onto
you
a boat
leave them in place.
and hop out and manipulate them outside the boat.
But
And
that,
so-
that particular way of
Process.
farming it requires a lot more space. He's
Because,
found.
yeah, because ours are fixed in place and they can't move anywhere. His, you have to be able to pick up those cages into your boat. And so if you have to be able to pick them up as much as 8 feet, they have to be able to move, and then it just, yeah. So I think from his perspective, he would want more, but I mean, I have no idea as to the whims of the Situate Select Board. And so, I want to be clear, like there's no, nothing scheduled, nothing, beyond that one meeting that's been discussed.
But your license is up for expiration, isn't
In the spring, in the
it?
summer.
So something has to be scheduled.
Something has to be scheduled soon, exactly. So I think the
Yeah.
first step was for
Yeah.
Mike to reach out to us and ask for proof of insurance and make sure
Sure.
that all of our ducks are in a row. Whatever reporting measures he set aside for us, that we completed that process before we went before the board. Hopefully, I'm hoping in the next month or two,
Mhm.
once they've voted, I think it's a matter of days before they could, issue a license.
Mhm.
And we'd like to do that because we could use more capital. I mean, we're still in the red, and for any bank to give you a loan, especially in this climate, you need, a lease that shows that you have the right to be on a piece of property longer than 4 months. So,
Okay.
right.
And I think you shared with us before, you showed it where the location is. If it were up to you and you expanded another acre, which direction would your farm increase? Would
We'd
it
like to expand south.
So south toward the flats?
Toward the flats, yes.
To shallower water.
Yeah.
Um,
Which we're all aware opened up a can of worms 5 years ago with litigation from the
Mhm.
Friends of Bassett Beach. But my thoughts on that are that while that lawsuit was dropped because the town stepped back and, decided not to apply for farms in that area, largely because the title search couldn't be completed because apparently they got back to 1805 and they need to get back to the 1600s from what I'm told, like the original deeds. And those deeds are apparently like on some ancient scrolls.
Now, they're
in
all
some
handwritten, so they're very
basement.
difficult to.
Yeah,
But
but
the
my
idea
thoughts,
was to find out whether or not, the oceanfront property owners had riparian rights.
right.
Mhm.
But in those 220 years of deeds, going back to 1805, and because I've read the deeds that both sides presented, there was no mention of anyone that had riparian rights to that area. So if there aren't any riparian rights going back 220 years, I'm pretty confident that if you were to go further back, there still wouldn't be any riparian rights.
Just quick question in the, not just the area you're in, but as far as you're aware, and I know you have to speak to what goes on beyond your own farm. But has it been delineated, the area that the three current farmers are at in their acreage, and then is the area delineated in any way for the potential increased areas? Like if that fellow wants to go 3 to 5 more, have 3 to 5 more acres, is that
Yeah.
already been delineated in some way? shape, or form?
So the only thing that's been-
still just.
The only thing that's
still
licensed,
being discussed.
you mean, is there anything else that's licensed?
No, I was looking more for the area that's been already
Like a
outlined.
projection of where the
The
farms.
projection of where they would be.
There's no potential.
Because,
there's no,
from
like,
a-
potentially do X.
From a sailing club
Right.
perspective, representing a sailing club, and I imagine the yacht club has the same concerns, is that adjacent area is the traditional area for years and years and years for where our junior sailing programs.
Like from that area going north. or
Well, it's
north.
on on the eastern side of the channel, because you stay out of way of the channel.
Yeah,
Stay south of the blades of the rocks, and then that sail training area is it's an important area for us to be able to still have. So I guess I, just was asking that question in terms of, is there any potential from what if there is, apparently there isn't an established or delineated area yet.
no, because it was just, it's only been brought up in discussion so
Yeah.
far.
I think that ought to be done, that there ought to be, sailing clubs, we should be
That's fair.
trying to
Absolutely.
delineate.
Communicating
areas
with
that we-
stakeholders as to
delineate
what,
where the areas we work, I'm sorry, we do sail training and make sure that's at least known, so that
Yeah.
you deconflict potential overlaps.
which is
And
why
Jeff,
I
to
feel
be
comfortable.
clear, you do sail training, right? You
Well, I have
personally-
been,
Personally are doing sail
well, I
training.
have been doing that, but it's
Yeah.
really more the junior. programs
Okay.
that I've been doing the adult sailing programs.
Okay.
Which is why I would feel more comfortable moving southward, knowing that it's in an area that most boaters stay away from. So
Sure,
it just
yeah.
seemed,
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
just sail training, it's recreational boating.
yeah,
But the sail training is been a very important area.
Yeah.
It's a safe area. You can take, your kids,
Right.
you're not pushing them out beyond.
Yeah.
Branch sledges and outside brush island.
I mean, when we first approached the town, my vision was that the big giant rock that's just below us, just south of us, we would have put four farms kind of around that rock, because nothing says stay away from me like a big giant rock, but then that plan fell apart, so.
George, you had a question about, any potential new licensees?
Yeah,
We're still in the middle of a pilot program,
Yeah.
so there won't be, I'm pretty sure they haven't received any new applications. I don't want to speak for the
Yeah.
town of Situate, but, they wouldn't, approve or, consider any new licensees until that, our pilot program is complete, which is, in a year or two.
I'm not even sure how long it is. I mean, the idea was that it takes 2 to 3 years for you to begin harvesting oysters in the first place, so.
Yeah,
I thought
and
it
this is
was
the
3
first
years.
summer that we're gonna really have a harvest.
Yeah.
I mean, we've gotten 6,000.
No, it's probably more like 10 or 15,000, so.
Oh, it is, okay.
Which are like the fast growers of this year's
Okay.
crop. that-
So beginning in like December, we started to have oysters, I mean, a bulk of our oysters won't be ready until late spring. So,
I had one other question, again, from the minutes, which were very helpful from Situate. They talked about the Division of Marine Fisheries has approved only 4 acres. Was that, you familiar with that?
Yeah, so there are 4 acres permitted, which means someone could potentially step in or apply for that farm, for that acre, but there were only 3 interested parties left standing after,
Over time.
at the time,
But
yeah.
if there is expansion, will the Department of Marine Fisheries have to approve that to the best of your knowledge before?
I
it
think so,
actually happens?
yes, I think so.
So they would
have to come out.
they
do
would
what they
be
did
the
the
ones
first
to
time.
ensure they had the information from like the sailing club about the sail training areas, so they can make a decision about where they permit.
Okay.
I would think they're the ones that are making decisions. I don't know.
Well, I'm not sure if they take into consideration existing uses, they do, but I think the Division of Marine Fisheries, their wheelhouse is more determining whether the habitat
Yes,
can
okay.
support oyster farm, whether there's
So it might
grass
be Mass
there
or
or.
Mass CZM or something. Right, yeah,
Yeah.
okay, well, I think that's one thing we could try to figure out. So
I can say
Rigorous.
that we spent hours and hours, even though it has been put out there that no stakeholders were consulted, but I was a member of the Shellfish Committee for a year, and I know for a fact that we sat down and had hours of conversations with different stakeholders. From the rowing club and from the sailing club and, so any future expansion, I'm sure would, I can't speak for the town again, but
Sure,
I,
yeah.
I would certainly would hope, and I would be pushing for communication with stakeholders.
What other questions do you have? I appreciate you guys sharing what you know here.
it's really helpful that you're being here, communicating with us about,
Yeah, the presentation
Sure.
last month. was
yeah,
really
it's really informative.
I wasn't sure because I definitely spewed threw a lot of information at you, so wasn't sure
Yeah,
how
well,
it was
it was
received.
great,
Um,
a lot of context.
what do you, so you're just sort of looking at personally for your farm, you're active with it now, and I mean, is there a harvest time that you're looking forward to?
So we've only been visiting the farm once a week, to harvest a small amount to try and keep the Oysterman restaurant in Situate open, because our Situate sailor oyster is their like house oyster. Apart from that, they won't start growing again until the water temperature gets above between 46 and 48 degrees, which depending on what kind of a spring we have, is usually in like mid-May. I mean, I know we had a beautiful weekend, but now here we are again looking at lower temperatures for a couple weeks. So if it continues like this, it'll definitely be mid-May. If we warm up in April, then it could be as early as end of April that water temp will get up, food and phytoplankton will return to the water. The oysters will stop pumping, but not accepting nutrients. They'll actually start, feeding and accepting nutrients and growing. And then the oysters will begin to grow, and then it typically takes about 6 weeks for that new growth of like a half an inch to an inch on the oysters to solidify and harden. At that point in like mid to late June is where our work will start to ramp up, and we'll have to start removing bags from the oyster farm, splitting them up, bringing more back out and that kind of stuff. But we've already got a lot of most of our cage infrastructure in place. So it's mostly just dealing with the oysters themselves. So it's been pretty sedentary for the past, 4 months. But
So it sounds like
something up
you will be doing ongoing harvesting from potentially mid-June through what, October? Is the
hopefully
growing
year
season?
round. I mean, the idea is to get to a point where, the farm is, all of the grunt work of the farm is done by October, but we'll consistently go out once or twice a week year round
I see, just
to
to
harvest.
oysters that
Yeah.
are sufficient size. that-
Exactly, yeah. I mean, rain or shine, like the USPS, we're out there, whether it's raining or not.
Okay,
We've been very lucky.
We have been pretty lucky.
It's been pretty nice out there.
Monday was a little cold and rainy.
Yeah. What other questions do we have?
I'd be interested once you know when your hearings are going to take place, I'd be interested in watching them and seeing what the consideration is and the standards
Yeah,
that are
sure.
being applied. That would be a great thing. to
Sure.
know.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose we can just pay attention.
To the Situate
Right.
Select Board agenda, I guess.
Yeah, and we'll be glad to come back to
Yeah.
before or after and discuss it.
And just remind me, in Situate, there's the select board who has the sort of highest authority. There's the Shellfish Constable, there's the Waterways Commission. What is the sort of regulatory structure that regulates what you do in Situate?
Well, the Shellfish Advisory Committee is what governs, or they created the laws, rules and regs that govern.
And then the Shellfish
aquaculture.
Constable is an arm of the, it's called the
He's a
enforcement
member,
arm of
he's
the-
a voting member of the Shellfish Advisory Panel. And then he's also a member of the Waterways Committee, who is, the Waterways Committee has a liaison that attends the Shellfish Committee meetings as well. And all decisions, take each of those committees' thoughts into account before presenting to the select board.
Okay.
But ultimately, the select board is the governing body that votes, to decide these things.
There's a licensing
Yeah,
entity.
correct.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you returning and answering, doing Q and A.
For sure.
We have just a couple more agenda items. I think I have you on the docket now. So Julia's been volunteered and has been chipping away at improving our website on cohassetmass.gov. And maybe if you could just share a little bit about what your thinking is in the plan.
Yeah, sure. So I'm happy to streamline and improve the navigation of the Harbor Committee webpage. Not necessarily the content, but more so reformatting so it's more easy to navigate and for the public as well as members of other boards to find information that's on the website. So utilizing tools that are on the website platform, we can reorganize the page so it's not just all on a singular page and you have to scroll down for 2 minutes, which can get tiring. So I can do a quick demonstration.
why don't
That'd be great.
Yeah. So I'll share my screen.
Love that.
So starting from the Cohasset homepage, I'll show you what the website looks like right now. And a little inspiration that we can pull from a different board committee. So this is the page right now. You're able to see.
Yeah, looks good.
Okay. So it already looks great. So there's not really much content wise to change. So it lists all the members, which will stay on the home page here, as well as the charge will stay on the home page, and monthly meetings so that people can quickly access that immediately from and they don't have to be rerouted to a separate link because that's the major information for attending meetings and such. So it lists some other items on your meetings. And then it kind of just keeps going down into other information, which is great. Past initiatives.
But it's dated. I mean, so I think it's not but my thought is it's good information. But if as soon as people see something's 2022 or 2021,
Right.
they probably don't recognize it as
Yeah,
significant.
Right.
And it would be great for people to see topics immediately. And I'll show it in a brief moment, but on the sidebar instead of scrolling down farther, because there's a lot of great stuff that you want to highlight. So you don't want to leave that out. So I'll show a quick example. I worked with Debbie Cook on the Alternative Energy Committee to kind of start this process, and it's still a living, breathing document. All the web pages are, because the information is always changing and you're adding more things, and reorganizing never ends. But we are in the process still. So I also support the Alternative Energy Committee, and Debbie was great in helping me visualize where things should be on the sidebar here. Because I had just started, and so this was a great way to also for myself to learn past initiatives and what the committee had championed in prior years that I wasn't here. So just a quick example, you can drop down here and go under current initiatives, and it'll automatically drop down. And you can click into those and it'll reroute you to that page specifically. So you don't need to scroll and look for whatever you're looking for, and you can just return back to the homepage.
I see us, having climate resilience as a topic and maybe having some commentary on why that's significant. Captain's Walk, another topic. We could have these different topics that make it more presented the way we
And user
are
friendly and
organized.
kind of
Yeah.
catchy, that people would actually want to read it.
Mhm. And I'm extremely open to comments or questions if you want anything specifically called out as like a link on the sidebar. I know that in terms of the Alternative Energy Committee, they really wanted to highlight certain things, and so those went towards the top of the homepage. Like their energy savings videos. So that was a very big project that they worked on over the past few years. And you keep scrolling and it kind of just ends there. So that's kind of the idea that I'm looking to implement for the Harbor Committee page.
I do see just on the page, they have more,
Yeah.
we have no commentary. They have a little bit of commentary that explains why. I was just looking through, if you scroll down a little bit more.
Yes.
Here they,
Oh, I see.
well, the charges to it, they try and, I think, make it impactful, the composition and background.
In addition to the couple of subjects you want about highlighting, and I know it's certainly part of the Harbor Master Plan for the there should be a section on harbor access and recreation, and just so people could go there and say, well, how do I access the harbor? What are the opportunities to join, or there's a sailing club, or there's a boat ramp, things like that sound basic to really help us, but
So, actually, we do know that they're mysterious to many people.
so it
in
should
town,
be
how
something
you-
I
how
think
you
we
get-
provide information about.
And just links to other places. if you
Yeah,
want to
and
be, you know.
potentially some commentary. I mean, Cohasset Sailing Club is open to residents.
Right.
Yacht Club
Right.
open to
Right.
others.
I mean, there are state ethics rules that you can't promote any private entity. But if it's just an information,
Yeah,
that this is a link
So
to
that's all I'm
X.
saying. It's
Right.
just
Right.
people know.
that's a great idea.
Yes, so that is pretty much my intent here.
So
Like I said-
what worked well
Mhm.
for you? What
There's a
did
process.
Debbie Cook
Right.
do
Yeah.
that made it
Mhm.
easy for you to reorganize the website? Or did you, did you meet with her, or how did that work for you?
Yeah, she did meet at my office, and she came with notes outlining the specific topics that they wanted to highlight in the sidebar dropdown. It could just be it doesn't have to be the topic in the sidebar, it could just be current initiatives, and then the dropdown are the topics. But she kind of outlined how she wanted it illustrated for like the visual aspect and the ease of navigating. So I have not been here for very long, so I don't know all of the Harbor Committee's past initiatives, so I'm hoping to rely on the group to provide me any information that you have done in the past, so that I can add it to the page and that it's not lost in the document pile. And I want to add that information in so that people can
Might
see
be an
all the-
idea to check out a couple other coastal communities, harbor websites, harbor
Mhm.
committee
Yeah.
websites, and to see what some of the kinds of information they're providing their communities. It's always good to look at relevant
Yeah.
examples.
I
Absolutely.
mean, Julie, you've already made,
Can I add in?
yeah, go ahead,
Susan?
Susan.
I think it's also important, I like what you said about answering questions that people might have about the harbor. I think like when you design a website, it's not about what we want to project to people, it's what does the audience come to the website for, is the question that you have to answer. And I think that one of the things, along with those questions about, how do I get to and access, I think also we could put on there, how do you participate and contribute your ideas to the harbor committee?
Mhm.
So it's not the smoothest thing to wade your way through agendas and whatnot to figure out where we're meeting, when we're meeting, what's on the agenda, and when you can say what. So I think that if we can add a little bit in the website to help people participate more, that would be great, because it's always good to get good insight from a wider variety of residents.
Yeah, that's great.
Is there anything controlling the color scheme? It seems like the look of this page looks very much like the look of our page, the browns and the greens and the pinks. And, I'm wondering if but that's a whole big undertaking, changing
Yeah,
what
I
it
think
looks like. But I didn't know if it was the want of the town to have like a consistent palette of colors or color or, fonts, et cetera, et cetera.
The skippers, the navy blue and white, right?
Exactly.
Before we get lost in the
Hold on.
weeds on the color
Susan.
about the website, can I
Susan.
ask Julia if she can provide any updates on CZM?
Oh, Susan,
Yes.
let her, she was going to answer the question. So let me just answer the question about website design. And then
Okay,
we'll
good.
get
Just in my experience, when you discuss colors and fonts about websites, it's like a 3-hour discussion. So I don't want to keep everybody up too late.
her answer the question.
So to my understanding, it's the town's consistency across all the web pages to keep the same color scheme.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Susan, what was your question for Julia?
Just wanted the updates on CZM work, because that sort of fits into that big cap thing that we were talking about. And that wasn't technically on the agenda, but
Okay.
we
no, that's
usually
cool.
have that.
Is there any activity with coastal zone management that you're aware of? Going on.
Not that I'm aware of. I can reach out to Brian Joyce to see if there is any further
Yeah.
information.
I mean, Susan, Mike Sardina met with Brian Joyce earlier talking about climate resilience, and the ball is in his court to go after further grants that are related to climate resilience. So we have no action going on from Weston and Sampson or Woods Hole Group related to moving forward from our last year's survey. But and Brian Joyce, I guess it's moved to the sort of level of concreteness that now town engineer has that. But I think we're still very much actively involved. I mentioned, if you heard it, that we're continuing to involve Brian in our thoughts around improving climate resilience. And if that certainly additional grants, when we figure out what we want to do, and he figures out what we want to do, will be very helpful. I guess the last comment I have looking at this, you showed alternative energy committee, so which looks good. You've made some improvements to our site based on what I've seen, based on that model. But if we continue that, look at what they did and see how we might organize our materials and call it a similar organizational concept,
Yes.
that
yeah.
would work well for you.
Yes, and it is continuous. So even the AEC's website is not at its fullest potential. I'm still working on that. And so it's kind of just an active project. So
And how can we help with that? Do you want us to give you suggestions, or just you're gonna come up with something and show it back to us? Or, I mean, many hands sometimes make a mess as opposed to make light work. So I'm just, what would be helpful from us?
yes, thank you. I definitely want to encourage your thoughts and ideas. You can reach out to me. I would say probably if you could highlight your priorities, so I can make sure that those are put, you know, in a higher place. People can see it when they reach the landing page. That would be something that you could help me with. Also, just the past initiatives, any information you have on that, so I can just create this page. But I'll use what I have, but that would be great.
So I provided some individual guidance. You know, another way we could do it is have a sort of call it a working session,
Mhm.
posted open meeting, and just focused on a little bit of homework beforehand and how we might want to improve the website.
Mhm.
As long as we have 5 of us together,
Right.
we can have that meeting
Mhm.
and doesn't. And that might be the quickest way to do it. If we have a little bit, if somebody comes a little homework, a proposal,
Right.
Right. Here's what I'm thinking of. And then we whack away at the
Mhm.
proposal and then from that,
Without being too burdensome to you.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
because it can become overwhelming.
thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other new business to bring before tonight's meeting? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I can just add in that I attended the grant information sessions from CZM. And CSCR will be having conversations with other town officials on some of that stuff too. So I'll update you on that at the next meeting.
Great, Susan. Let's remind me to put that on the agenda, please.
Yeah,
Thank-
if we have anything to report.
That's
We shall
terrific.
see.
Other new business.
Happy birthday. Let's give this woman have
Oh,
some time.
thank you. Happy
Thank you.
birthday to,
Happy birthday.
for a dedicated
Yes.
town employee to spend a
Really
birthday
appreciate it.
evening with us. Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Second on the adjourn,
Second.
all in favor of adjourning? Thank you for being here.
Bye.
Meeting is
Oh,
adjourned.
Yeah.
wait, George, I have a question. The dates that you put out
Yeah.
are replacing the old dates?
Yes,
Okay. All right. Thank you.
yes, thank you. Thanks, Susan. Thanks for attending.
Yep. And I'll get the minutes from the recording.
Appreciate it.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
You know,